In the time it takes you to actually board that flight from Group 8,
Now boarding Premier Altitude Elite Club members.
you could have bought a Hyundai on Amazon. Yes, that Amazon, where you buy everything else.
Mid-tier Altitude Elite, feel free to board now.
So while you're waiting for them to make up new boarding groups, you can order your dream car and the dealer will have it ready in no time.
Now boarding groups 1 through 7.
So close. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Limited availability, pickup through participating Hyundai dealer in select markets.
This week, we're talking Central Michigan football. The Chippewas coming off a 4-8 season, and new first-year head coach Matthew Drinkall takes over the reins to lead the Chippewas to victory. Can they get it done? Find all that out and more on this week's episode.
What's up, guys? It's three-time NFL Pro Bowler, all-decade return specialist, Josh Cribbs. I want to welcome you to the Mac Sports Connection podcast, where Alex hosts all things Mac, all things football, all things sports, right here, Mac Sports Connection, baby. The Mid-American Conference best, bringing it only the great Mac to everyone.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Mac Sports Connection. I'm your host, Alex. Joining me as always, it's Graham. Graham, we're out of the B's. We're finally in the C's to the E's to the K's we're moving on. We have escaped the biggest letter of our alphabet.
Yeah, here I am trying to figure out what word you're spelling that starts B-C-E-K. That's the it should be fun to keep going with our alphabetical previews here. Alex, I think the past few of these I've been talking about how I'm not quite in a football mood. I'm kind of getting in a football mood. It's officially the very tail end of July. It might even be August by the time you're listening to this, and it's almost football time, Alex. I mean, I'm salivating thinking about it.
Man, I got to tell you, it's really interesting. I feel like we have this lull throughout the off season. The summer, it drags on. People are posting content. What candy is your favorite university? Most representative? Like you get the crazy fun interactions over the off season because people are bored. In fairness, those people don't enjoy Major League Baseball like you and I do. So that helps us pass the time a little bit quicker. But people are bored. Then we get to media days, and media days all throughout the country for the different conferences. I was at Mac Media Day this last week, where I actually talked to Matthew Drinkall, the head coach. You guys heard that interview earlier this week. But we hit media day, and you could just feel the energy in the room. People are excited. They're like, we're 5 weeks away from this thing. Let's get this thing going. And here we are talking about Central Michigan.
That's right. We're in our previews here and getting ready to fire up some chips. I don't know. That wasn't a great segue, but we're going to stick with it. We're into our previews here, and it's fun as the season inches closer. These previews start to turn into just views as we're watching the football and the kickoff. Alex, what do we think the Chippewas are going to look like this year?
Well, I got to tell you, Graham, kind of looking at what they did a year ago, 4-8, as I mentioned, 2-6 in the MAC. They did beat Western Michigan, but the biggest kind of glare on their season a year ago, minus 17 turnover margin, second to last in the country. This was not a great football team on the offensive side. They only scored 271 points. That's just 22.6 over 12 games. Just under 4,000 yards over 12 games. Not even 2,000 yards passing. Just 55% completion percentage. 11 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Rushing was kind of their bright spot. Almost 2,000 yards rushing. And but the defensive side of the ball, for as good as they were. In rushing defense, they were actually third in the Mid-American Conference. They gave up a lot of points, almost 30 points a game. And again, you have some of those non-conference games that kind of, points pile up. But I think really the word I think you have to say is they'll improve. They're going to be better than they were a year ago. Last year was riddled with a lot of injuries, and we'll talk about some of those here as we go through this preview. But we'll start with the quarterback, Joe Labus. Joe Labus is the incumbent starter, if you will. And that's as long as he can stay healthy. Last year, he was taken out of the season after the Ohio game, a 27-25 loss to the Bobcats, season-ending injury on his shoulder. And he's got a little bit of competition in this fall camp. Jaden Glasser and Angel Flores from Northern Arizona. This could be really, really interesting. I like Joe Labus as the starting quarterback, kind of to retain his spot. But don't be surprised if Coach Drinkall doesn't rely on the passing game, and we'll talk more on that here in a minute.
Well, yeah, Joe Labus is something that a lot of these MAC schools don't have this year, and that's returning production at the quarterback position, and it's something that Central Michigan can kind of hang their hat on. It's tough to call this either a plus or a minus. I think we have to lean plus here when we say that Labus is back, and that's got to be good for the Chippewas. But we talked about this offense last year. It wasn't particularly compelling as far as offenses go, and especially not in the passing game. So having somebody who has a little more experience under center now, a year removed, is good news. Somebody who can hopefully run the offense. But the question mark here is, has he recovered from that injury you talked about? And what are we looking at in terms of Joe Labus this year, operating an offense that was pretty anemic last year?
Well, I think with Joe, kind of talking with Coach Drinkall at Media Day, he's excited about what he can bring to the table. I mean, when you look at his stats from a year ago, through 6 games, he had over 1,000 yards passing. And really through 5 games, he played just a few snaps of that 6th game against the Bobcats. But I think Coach Drinkall, at Media Day, he was excited. He's like, look, this is a veteran player, a guy coming back into this locker room to be a leader. Now, Joey Labus did look at the transfer portal here in the offseason, decided, hey, I'm going to come back. I'm going to be part of this team and compete. Coach Drinkall gave a lot of credit to him. Could have left, especially after they brought in some other QBs. And to his credit, he said, he realized, no, I want to compete here. I want to fight for my spot here. I don't want to go fight for a spot anywhere else. And that's exactly what he's doing. So I think that gives him a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And I feel like chip on the shoulder, chip on a chip is a little weird here, but we'll roll with it. And I think that's going to give him a huge leg up as we kick off this 2025 campaign, because this guy he's coming back from an injury, so he wants to prove himself there. He's hungry to keep his starting spot because he knows he has competition. So I think that this could be a really quality year for Joey Labus.
Yeah, it's certainly. I mean, it's interesting to talk about this team in terms of returning production, especially at the quarterback position, what we're talking about now, when they have a brand new head coach. So we're talking about a team who operated in a particular way under McElwain, and we're trying to figure out how this team is going to operate this year with similar personnel as to last year, but a different coaching staff, a different coach. And so the question is the Labus we saw last year the Labus we're going to see this year? He didn't show a lot of rushing potential last year. So I find it hard to believe we're going to see Drinkall bring some of that Army option game into the playbook this year. But, it'll be interesting to see. We saw about half a season from him last year. With the whole season, a new head coach, who knows?
Well, and I think that's what I'm excited about, because when we're going to get to this position group here, the running backs, they're a big question mark on this team, if we're being very honest. The running backs, they bring back Nari Biggins, who last year converted from a defensive back to a running back. And then they have Trey Cornist, the Tulane transfer. He had 22 carries for $149 and 1 score at Tulane a year ago. Marion Luke's kind of the household name of Central Michigan from the past 3 or 4 years. He's gone. So, they're going to turn to these guys to kind of look at what they can do on the ground. And I think if you can find something, now Nari Biggins has incredible speed. I don't know how much you actually got to see any clips of him running, both in the defensive and offensive side of the ball. He has a lot of speed. This is a kid who can move, and he can move quickly. So that lends well to the kind of offense I think most people are expecting Drinkall to run. But I don't know that when doing this, I don't know that this is going to provide much. I mean, again, this isn't Marion Luke's. This isn't the guy who you could rely on to be your bell cow. And in a run first offense, you need a bruising bell cow. And I don't know that Central Michigan has that as of right now on paper.
Yeah, you're talking about the transfer from Tulane, Trey Cornist. And it's funny when we talk about this running back room, the most proven running back in this room is Trey Cornist, and he had a grand total of, you want to guess how many yards he had last year on the ground?
Hit me.
$194. He had 194 yards on the ground last year, and we're talking about him
is that
as
catching and rushing?
No, that's the rushing yards.
Rushing yards, okay.
But 194 yards on the ground last year for Trey Cornist, the most proven running back in this room. I think it's tough to look at the running back position and not kind of throw your hands up in the air and go, who knows?
Yeah.
That's we're talking about Nari Biggins here and his breakaway speed. He's certainly fast, but that move from DB to running back, that's not an easy transition to make. Blazing speed helps in every position, and especially in the MAC. An athlete tends to shine through. It'll be interesting. I feel like I say that every time we talk about one of these teams, Alex, is what'll be interesting. But again, Central Michigan is just full of question marks. Yeah. Brand new head coach, quarterback coming off of injury, running back room that is mostly unproven. I really don't know what the Chippewas are going to look like this year. It's hard to see their offense getting worse, though. So I think we have to assume it'll get better.
Well, I think when you look at the offense, again, the arguably the most injury-riddled side of the ball you could have, and especially in the MAC. I mean, you look at what Central Michigan went through, and yes, you lost Joey Labus halfway through the year, but then you lost like half of your wide receivers throughout the year. Two of the top guys that you're expecting to return, Langston Lewis, he comes back from an injury from a year ago. Tyson Davis got hurt in the preseason of 2024. Tommy McIntosh is the guy who had, from just kind of my perspective, the returner who has the most experience. He has 9 games. He has 2 catches for 15 yards. And then you've got some tight ends and whatnot. Tate Vanderleest. You've got Decorian Temple, Nathan Van Timmeren. Like, all of these guys have experience, but it's not. There's no big breakaway star that I'm seeing on this list as of right now.
It feels like that's the story of Central Michigan this year is we talk about the breakaway speed, or we talk about the incredible talent, or we talk about the coming back from injury. We talk about the experience of a certain position. And then we say, but
yeah.
And that's, I don't want to say Central Michigan's got a big but I think that's what we're saying, is that this team in general has a big but. I am excited to see where these Chippewas end up, because I think, similar to a lot of teams in the conference, I put Central Michigan in a tier just under Miami, where it's a team who has a ton of talent, but they need things to break the right way. If things break the right way for Central Michigan this year, there's a chance they're competing for that MAC title.
And I think that's really interesting. When I spoke to Coach Drinkall at Media Day, and again, I know you heard this obviously after sharing that this week's episode, but I know the fans heard this as well. There's excitement in his voice, and excitement, and then almost more importantly, a discipline in how he wants to approach things. With all due respect to coaches of yesteryear, I really think that Matthew Drinkall understands the opportunity he has at Central. He called it out in the show. He called it out in the interview, and he said, Central Michigan has arguably the best fan base, arguably the best resources available to be competitive immediately. It's just unlocking them. It's just utilizing them the right way. And as you guys all heard, he understands the opportunity that's in front of him to bring winning football back to Mount Pleasant. And so I think in hearing that, and obviously everybody can say anything and sound like the most confident guy in the world at a media day, right? But I think that there's a level of sincerity to it that isn't just coach speak. It's, no, I see the value of what's here. I'm ready to go try to win now.
Well, and I think that that's what fans should know about Coach Drinkall is he had kind of incredible success at Kansas Wesleyan. Just a real turnaround there that gets him the nod from Jeff Monken at Army to come in and retool this Army offense. And that retooling of the offense doesn't really work so well for Army in 2023. But despite the offense not quite clicking, despite this retooling of the offense not quite working, Drinkall stays around. He gets to take over that offensive line job at Army, and by all accounts does a great job there. I think that's what we need to focus on when it comes to this team, is that Drinkall is a guy who can come in. He's not afraid to make changes. He's not afraid to evaluate what he has and really, put out a system that works for his guys. You talk about the excitement in his voice. I hear it. I think that's the be all end all for this Chippewa team this year. And it is this excitement. It's how much these players are going to buy in to Drinkall's vision. Obviously we don't know yet, but one thing I can tell you, this will be a stout line. just the offensive line for these Chippewas. We talked about Drinkall is an offensive line guy. They're returning, I think, 3 starters on the offensive line. So we got experience there. We got a couple of big, strong transfers coming in to bolster that line as well. This will be a strong, experienced offensive line. And when it comes down to it, that won't be the excuse as to why this offense doesn't work, if it doesn't work.
I think it's really interesting that, and I don't really think it's a surprise. Central Michigan, if you've been any sort of MAC fan, you understand that they are probably offensive line U in the conference. They consistently crank out quality offensive linemen, and now you bring in a head coach who helped Army secure the Joe Moore Award for the most outstanding offensive line in college football last year, who, by the way, at Army, that is the first non-Power 4 program to win that award. Now, the award's only been around since 2014, 2015, something like that. So it's just a 10-year-old award, but it's gone to Alabama a couple times, Michigan a couple times, Notre Dame, Iowa, LSU, Washington, and Army. And I don't think that's a secret. I think that this is where we see the proof in the pudding on how good Central Michigan's going to be. If you can get an offensive line to protect Joey Labus, to protect this quarterback room, to give these running backs opportunities to run, this is the game changer. And I feel like we say that a lot. Your offensive and defensive lines are your game changers. You have a coach who understands that aspect of college football better than any coach I think that we're going to see in the conference in a while. This is the game changer for Central Michigan if they want to be a competitive plus 500 team in the conference this year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the key here is if Central has the kind of offensive line that we expect, that's what's going to give them the opportunity to adapt to a new offense. That's what's going to give them the opportunity to rise above the injuries that we had last year, the players who are coming from injury and also trying to learn a new offense at the same time. This offensive line is going to buy them time to do that. Not just in game, but in practice and in training as well. So I think that's the focus for this offense is the offensive line, is the stalwarts up front. On the defensive side of the ball, Drinkall brings in a buddy, brings in a friend from Army in Sean Cronin to take over as defensive coordinator. He was the defensive line coach at Army, and so this defense is going to be retooled as well. A defense that last year ranked, I want to say 11th nationally in run stop rate. They ranked 16th nationally in sacks, and also gave up maybe the most big plays in the country.
Yeah.
They're a defense that defied any sort of real definition when they stepped up. And I don't know how many games you watched of the Chippewas last year, Alex, but when they stepped up, their defense looked impenetrable. Mm-hmm. And then the next play would be a 50-yard touchdown. It was impossible to tell what this defense was going to do one play to the next. They were kind of the classic, big plays or no yards kind of defense. I think nowadays modern defenses tend to be the bend don't break. That's not what this defense was. This defense was a stalwart defense, or it was a broken defense. It'll be interesting to see if we can see a little more discipline on this side of the ball this year.
Well, and I think it's interesting, when we were talking about their turnover margin, minus 17, so an average of minus 1.42 turnovers a game. You've heard the adage, you lose the turnover battle, you're probably going to lose the game. And that's a big reason as to why Central Michigan lost 8 of them last year. What's really interesting, Central was way better at home at minus 2 than they were on the road at minus 15. And the different things account for whatever, but it became this, we're not road warriors. And that's something else that Coach Drinkall talked about kind of instilling this mindset of you got to be road warriors this year. They start the season with 3 straight road games. And they play like 5 of their first 6 on the road. So like this is a team that has to be road warrior focused, and I really like that. That's that mentality he's establishing. But you're right. Like on the defensive side of the ball, there is some experience coming back. Jordan Kwiatkowski, the linebacker, I think is going to be a huge cog in what this defense was. He was a second team All-MAC selection last year, and I think there's a lot of value in having a leadership guy back. Last year he had 15 tackles in the Ball State game. He had 1 interception, didn't have any sacks, but he kept the pedal to the metal. 48 total tackles, I think is what he had or 96 total tackles is what he had on the year. Sorry, not 48. But this is a guy who I think you can kind of retool a defense around, and he's got 1 final year, so he can really train up these young guys in that linebacking room. Dakota Cochran, Fernando Sanchez, like this is a defense that has a lot of potential. Like you said, they just have to learn how to avoid giving up the big play.
Yeah, and I want to focus on Dakota Cochran for a second. Kwiatkowski certainly is going to be the leader on this defense, but another linebacker, Dakota Cochran, had 54 tackles last year, 3.5 sacks from the linebacker position is not bad at all. And you talked about turnovers. This is a guy who forced 2 fumbles last year. So Dakota Cochran is a big play type linebacker. I think that's what we're looking for in this defense is a little. Well, we hope the big plays remain. We hope this defense is still making the big plays that they made last year, but maybe a little less risky. We were seeing a lot of defensive backs rushing the quarterback last year, and those resulted in a lot of sacks. They also resulted in a lot of big plays. So I'm looking to see Cronin maybe dial back the risk a little bit for the Chippewas this year on the defensive side of the ball. Linebacker gonna be thrilling, gonna be a really exciting position for the Chippewas this year. Not to mention Caleb Spann, who's a safety who seems to live behind the line of scrimmage somehow. I mean, this guy gets to the quarterback. I mentioned those defensive backs blitzes. This is a guy who has a nose for the quarterback and gets to him quickly. Exciting plays for the Chippewas. That's what I'm looking for this year with less broken ones.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's going to be, when you bring in a new offense and a new defense, like there's going to be some hiccups. There's going to be some, hey, how do we figure this out? But again, discipline is the thing that I think fans need to be on the lookout for with Coach Drinkall. That there is a level of discipline that he expects out of his team. And I think what's really interesting, and this was talked about a little bit, you're coming over from Army where there is that such a regimented, schedule of how you do things. That's going to bleed into this, intentional or not, that's going to bleed into Central Michigan. And I really love that because this team has become just a little bit less disciplined collectively than they have in years past. And that's been a slow over time thing. I'd really say since about 2021, the Sun Bowl, this team started to slowly take a nosedive. And now we're seeing a completely reinvigorated offensive and defensive setup, and I'm really excited. You were talking about Caleb Spann in the secondary. I really, really like Jayon Jackson coming back. 39 tackles a year ago. Kid can hit. Kid can lay people out. And then of course Marcus Baguette. I think this is an opportunity for him to really step up. And then a bunch of good transfers, including Kalen Carroll from Cincinnati, Maddox Blackwell from Indiana State, and then Eli Gordon from D2 Saginaw Valley. These are all guys who performed well or had an opportunity to perform well here at Central Michigan, but they performed well in their last stops, and that gives them an opportunity to really step up and be part of this defense.
Yeah, Kalen Carroll at cornerback was at Cincinnati last year, and got a few starts at Cincinnati. Yeah. So this guy with Power 4 starting experience, and should help to bring a little bit of discipline to this Chippewa defense. Alex, let's just quickly on the special teams here. Special teams for MAC teams, it varies wildly. When we talk about at S&P Plus for offensive and defensive rankings, they tend to be, MAC teams tend to be around each other within a certain range. Special teams, it's wild to see how much they differ there. As far as the Chippewas go, last year their S&P special teams rating was 42, which not great, mind you, but does put them in the top half of Division I college football.
Really?
Yeah. So
wow,
a kind of a wild thing. Central not returning a ton of production. We talk about the returning kicker, Cade Graham is technically a returning kicker, but he didn't handle the place kicking duties for Central last year. He was doing kickoffs. Right. So the question is, what kind of kicker do we have in Cade Graham? Declan Dooley is a transfer from Illinois, handling the punting duties. What are we going to get there? We went from offense question mark to defense. We're excited about the returners. We're excited about the transfers in. Now we're back in special teams. It's another question mark for me, Alex.
I'm looking at Cade's numbers right here. He had one, extra point, and then a 2-point conversion for a total of 3 points last year. So yeah, he stuck primarily to kickoffs, averaged 61.5 yards, 3 touchbacks. I guess an important stat, no out of bounds. So that's important. You want to keep all your kickoffs in bounds. He did that over 4 games. So I think there's an opportunity to put the special back in special teams and become a quality unit. But it's going to rely on, as we very much have talked about, that offensive line, and then using some of that talent to come over and be blockers on the special team side. I think that there's going to be a heavy emphasis on protection this year. Just if I had to guess anything, there's going to be a heavy emphasis on protecting skill position guys. And that's a good thing.
I think you're absolutely right there. Overall, I think this Central Michigan team is going to be built on big plays this year. And Alex, if I was trying to listen to some of these big plays, say I'm in the car and I'm trying to pull up the game and like hear some big plays, how would I do that?
Well, Graham, it's there's a great app called the Varsity app by Lairfield. And you can download that app. It's really your go-to destination for any of the live game audio, exclusive content, top-tier college sports podcast. And guess what? They're all free for you to download on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. With the Varsity app, you can definitely live stream all the radio broadcasts. So our good friend of the show, Adam Jacksa, the voice of the Chippewas, will be talking to you about all things Central Michigan through this app. As well as any other broadcast from your favorite Division I schools, including calls from the MAC, Big Ten, SEC, Mountain West, and more. You can take your experience and customize it yourself by saving your favorite schools, sports, and shows for quick and easy access. You're also going to be able to listen to us on the Varsity Podcast Network. That's going to be fan favorites such as yours truly, the Max Sports Connection, Group of Five Guys podcast, the Sickos Committee podcast, and many more. So make sure you guys are downloading that. Please, please, please download that here in the off season for free so that you can get a little bit closer to the action with calls and podcasts that bring your college teams to life. Graham, it's that time, Graham. It is that time to talk schedule. And, let's just get into the weeds of this one with Central Michigan. They have a tough slate to kick off the season. August 29th against San Jose State at 10:30 p.m. I'm pretty sure that's 10:30 p.m. Eastern, not West Coast time. And that's at CEFCU Stadium in San Jose, California. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, that's the bulk of it. Travel to start the season can often be better than travel in the middle of the season, to the West Coast for these MAC teams where you can adjust a little bit beforehand and prepare for this travel to the West Coast. That being said, San Jose State is a tough draw. It's a tough draw to start the season. Obviously, there are other teams who would be harder to beat. San Jose State is a team that MAC teams can beat and have beaten. To start the season, I don't think Central Michigan has it. At San Jose State, very first game of the season, new head coach. I'm taking San Jose State in this one.
Yeah, I like San Jose State almost purely because it's a home game for them. So give me Central Michigan to take the loss in this one. And that's okay. I don't think that there's any issue with that whatsoever, but I don't think San Jose State kicks off the season with a loss to Central Michigan. And that's just because this is a Central Michigan team just trying to figure it out here in the early goings of this. doesn't get any better as the Chippewas travel to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh reeling from their multi-overtime loss to Toledo, a fellow MAC opponent.
Hey,
I don't
spoilers
know
now.
that
We
they
haven't
want to
released that
lose.
episode yet.
I'm sorry?
I said spoilers now. We haven't released that episode yet.
I don't think that Pittsburgh wants to lose to a MAC team twice in 3 games. Who do you got here, Graham?
I have Pittsburgh. Again, this is at Pittsburgh. I don't know that I need to say much more here. Pittsburgh.
All right. I like Pittsburgh again in this one. Now I will say, in fairness, Kent State played Pittsburgh tough early last year. Kind of came out, pushed them around a little bit, and I think Central Michigan overall is a better team. That being said, I think Pittsburgh gets the win at home to avoid an embarrassing loss in back-to-back attempts against MAC opponents.
Now, when you say Central Michigan is a better team, you mean Central Michigan is a better team than Kent State last year?
Yes. I don't mean that they're a better team than Pittsburgh in the early goings.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I agree here. This Pitt team is going to be a good team. And you're right to say that Pitt is a team who is susceptible to a loss to somebody from the conference, from the Mid-American Conference. San Jose State is the same way. They're a team who can be susceptible to that early in the season. At home, I think both of these teams handle their business. And unfortunately, Central starts 0-2.
There you have it. Moving on, game against the Wolverines in the Big House. And this one shouldn't have storylines, but it does, as Connor Stallions is still in the college football headlines with the sign stealing scandal, and whether or not he was actually on the sidelines at a Central Michigan game against Michigan rival Michigan State. A lot of Michigan going on there. But I think the Wolverines, a little bit of a down year last year. Central Michigan down year last year. I think the Wolverines get it at home. Michigan is something like 32-1 against MAC programs. And I don't see that going to 32-2 here in week 3.
Yeah, despite how we like to see these MAC upsets, I don't see that happening here. It seems like at least early in the season, blue and gold is the kryptonite for Central Michigan as they go 0-3 to teams who are blue and gold or blue and yellow.
I didn't even look at that. Wow, that's an astute observation. So it's a good thing Wagner has different colors here in week 4 on September 20th. And finally, Central Michigan gets to return to the friendly confines of Kelly Short Stadium, where they beat the brakes off of Wagner.
Yeah, this is a team who, you mentioned Coach Drinkall told us how excited this team is, ready to play this year. That excitement will have been reined in a little bit by an 0-3 start, but you bet the first home game of the year, and a team who is aching for that first win, they're going to come out ready to play. And Wagner is just not going to offer enough to take down Central.
So we'll move on there. So we both have the Chippewas 1-3 to start the year. Finally, we get to conference play. And what a way to start conference play. You get one of your big rivals for the Michigan MAC trophy. You get Eastern Michigan, but you do get them at home. Who are you taking in this one? I like Eastern Michigan in this one, Graham.
Wow. I think this is such a hard game to call. I'm going to take Central at home. I'm
Okay.
really excited about this team, and I want to see where they end up. I think Central gets a win here.
Wow. Okay. I love it. It's we'll continue to move on down the list here. And we've already spoken about these next 2 games. This one's at Akron. When we did our Akron preview, I said Central Michigan finds a win at InfoCision Stadium. You said that Akron gets the home win against the Chippewas. Any changes to that?
No.
All right.
things are still the same. Yeah, I think Akron finds this one.
All right. Then we move on to October 18th, traveling to Deutsch Perry Stadium against the Bowling Green Falcons and Eddie George. We talked about this one last week or 2 weeks ago, and we both had Bowling Green winning this game there in Deutsch Perry. No changes for me on that. And I'll be honest, that's why I hate doing media day before we do these previews, because you get different feelings from different coaches. But I still think Bowling Green's going to be a little bit too much for the Chips at home.
I like Bowling Green this year, and that's why I went with a BG win here. I think Central Michigan is going to show that they are more talented than folks are giving them credit for. But I think BG has just a slight edge, and especially being at home.
All right, let's continue to move on down this list. We have UMass coming to Kelly Shorts on October 25th, the last game of October for Central Michigan. Who you like in this one? I think this one feels easy, but we obviously haven't done our UMass preview yet. I like Central Michigan at home to close out the month of October with a W.
You keep asking me how do I feel about this one, and then you tell me how you feel about it. I appreciate that. I agree. This is I love UMass. Welcome back to the conference, but woof. They're in for a tough year. This is a Central win.
Moving into November, nights get a little bit colder. We've got a game at Waldo Stadium in Kalamazoo with Western Michigan, the second part of Central's rivalry for the Michigan MAC. I'll let you go first, Graham. Who you got in this one?
Oh gosh, thank you for letting me pick this one. This might be the hardest game to pick on here. I think EMU is a hard game to pick, but this Western game is very tough. If Central takes down EMU, this one will be for the Michigan MAC trophy. This will be an interesting dynamic here. There's certainly a lot on the line when it comes to rivalry matchups. I'm going to default to the home team winning. Anything can happen in these November MAC games, but I think this is a CMU loss.
Man, I'm going with a Western win.
That's what I said.
Or yeah, sorry, yeah. You said CMU loss. That threw me off. So I'm also going with a Western win. I just think Western's going to have a little bit more kind of experience, talent, just kind of in the forefront. So I really like Western at home on this one. And then we finally get to the most wonderful time of the year, the midweek MAC slate, starting November 12th with a game at Kelly Shorts against Buffalo. I have, according to last week's episode, I have Buffalo losing this one, and you have Buffalo winning this one.
I do. I really like Buffalo this year. I've made it known to you. I think Buffalo ends up in the MAC championship game this year. Yeah, I have a Buffalo win here.
All right, moving on. We've got Kent State, a game at Dick Stadium. I like Central Michigan to find another Northeast Ohio road win this season.
Yep. I don't know that we need to say much more about that. I think Central is a better team than Kent State is.
But I do think as we wrap up the regular season, November 29th, a game against Toledo, the Rockets, and we have not done this preview yet. Rockets look to be pretty solid this year, and we'll dive into that a little bit more here in a couple weeks. I'm liking Toledo to get the win at Kelly Shorts.
Yeah, I agree. I think Toledo is going to have something on the line in this last week of the MAC season, and I think they're going to come out ready to play. I think this is a Toledo win, a CMU loss.
I think, and so yeah, we get to the end of the season. Graham, you've got a 4-8 Central Michigan team. I've got a 5-7 Central Michigan team, and I feel like this is one of those things that if they had a slightly less challenging non-conference slate, this is a bowl team. I'm some of these losses I feel like are going to be close. Some of these wins are going to be close. We've got a couple games here where both of us had different winners. We've got 3 different games where we picked different winners, and so those could all be, I think, coin flips. Eastern Michigan, Akron, and Buffalo. I really, really think that this is going to be one of those weird seasons. I think Buffalo probably has the best shot of running through it. I know that I picked Central Michigan, obviously, to win that game, but this is a fun slate of football for Central Michigan.
Yeah, you mentioned those 3. I'll also throw out that Western Michigan game. I think that Western Michigan game is also a coin flip. So with 4 games on the schedule where you could basically flip a coin, this team, a couple of things break right for this team. This could be a bowl team.
Looks like a pretty solid year. Year 1 is all about getting things established, really defining what you want the program to look like. And I think 5-7, 4-8 Central fans, I think you can be happy with that, as long as there's proven change in the program. And I think that's going to be the thing you have to look for. You can't be -17 in turnover margin in 2025. That has to improve. Offensive line, defensive line have to be much improved. But I think Coach Drinkall is the guy to do it. This is a good coach. If you haven't listened to that interview, please go listen to it. We released that on Tuesday. You guys are listening to this episode on a Thursday, but we released it on Tuesday. And I really think that this is going to be a really fun year for Central.
Absolutely. It's certainly an exciting year. So definitely stay tuned to Central Michigan this year. I think their games are going to be electric.
There you guys have it. Thank you so much for tuning in as we wrap up or continue to do our season previews, rather. We've changed up the format a little bit thanks to Media Day. So if your team is up for a Media Day or up for preview and we have the interview with the coach, I did, not Alex, but Alex. I was trying to talk third person there, Graham. I did 10 out of 13 coaches, a couple voices, and the commissioner of the Mid-American Conference. So 14 interviews at Media Day this year, which is almost double my personal best at a Media Day event. So I'm excited to release all of those to you guys. We'll be re-releasing some old names. So we've got a Bowling Green preview, Ball State preview that we've already done. But we've got interviews with those coaches. So we'll be releasing those during some of the episodes during some of the weeks that we don't have coach episodes. So be on the lookout for those. We're going to be making sure that we're giving you guys, fans from all teams, content over the next month, whether it be previews, coach interviews, or more. So really excited to bring all that content to you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you're checking out on all of our socials at the MSC Podcast on Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky. Going to be using that a little bit more on YouTube as well at MSC Podcast. Thank you guys for pushing us over triple-digit subscribers on our YouTube. That's a huge milestone, so we greatly appreciate that. But then also continue to like, share, support the show however you can. We are greatly appreciative for all you guys have done to help make us the #1 Mid-American Conference podcast in the country. We couldn't have done it without you guys. So thank you for pushing us into that top spot and keeping us there for as long as you have. Graham, anything else before we sign this thing off?
No, go Chips and go Mac football. And again, thank you, you all the listeners, for supporting us. And let's get ready for some action, baby.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. And we will see you next week as we bring you the Eastern Michigan Eagles along with an interview with head coach Chris Creighton. See you next week.